Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jim Cahill. Thank you for joining us today. We have a very nice agenda for you talking about Magento. And we know from our conversations with our customers and with our attendance at IRCE last week that there's been a lot of questions in the marketplace, both about how to best upgrade to Magento 2 from Magento 1 and about Adobe and Magento as well. So we'll be talking about that as much as we possibly can today. And by that I mean about the Adobe Magento purchase. That is certainly something that is up in the air right now. But before we begin, let's introduce our participants today. Okay. Once again, I'm Jim Cahill. I'm the Director of Sales and Marketing for Freestyle Solutions. And with us today,
this is Christopher Lang. I'm one of the co-founders of Optimized Web Development.
And Ian Owano, Director of Product Management of the M.O.M system.
Okay. And first, what we'd like to do is just to talk a little bit about what we do today at Freestyle Solutions. I think many of you are very familiar with us. Certainly, many of the people online today, and we thank you for joining us, have been long-time customers. But for those who are not as familiar with us, let's just give a very, very brief introduction. You can see how long we've been in the business, the kinds of things that we do, specialize in order and inventory management. We certainly have the ability to be able to connect to Magento and Magento's competitors as well. And for those of you on the phone who are SiteLink customers, our own Commerce Card, we just want to give assurances that certainly that SiteLink is not involved in any way with the Adobe Magento discussions or in any way with how you can best upgrade to Magento 2. With SiteLink, you are in a separate category and one that is very, very stable and has a very clear and well-defined path forward, so you can feel confident in that. But if you certainly have some curiosity about where we are and anything about M.O.M, if you're not currently a M.O.M user or you'd like to learn more about it, we do like to think that we are one of the category creators. We brought M.O.M onto the market, and way before even the emergence of e-commerce, when there was phone orders and catalog orders, and we've continued to keep pace with the marketplace. We launched some of the very first e-commerce websites and have continued to support them through the years. And as of today, M.O.M is still one of the category leaders in the industry with thousands of customers that have been active on M.O.M throughout the years. And we continue to plan and to improve the product as we go forward. Okay. So what I wanted to do was to turn over to Chris, who will talk a bit about his company, his organization, Optimized, and then he will take it forward to talk about what is the prime topic of conversation today, Magento, Magento 2, and how you can best plan your migration from Magento 1 to Magento 2. Chris?
Hi. So as we mentioned, I'm Christopher Lang. I'm one of the founders of Optimized Web Development. We've been in business since 2011, and we specialize in Magento and SiteLink design and development. We also offer other web and web-related services, but our core specialty is e-commerce. If you guys have any questions about our services or Magento specifically, you can find our contact info at the end of this presentation.
Okay, we want to mention a few things right in advance about what happens at IRCE, what happens in conversations with the people who know most about this. And to dispel any confusion or to set the proper parameters, because the sale of the purchase of Magento by Adobe will not close until Adobe's fiscal third quarter, which is, think about the September, August timeframe. A lot of the details are not present in the marketplace. Our conversations really focused on what people thought, and the primary areas of concern were these. As you can see right here, future direction of the product. Everything we were told about that is that Magento will go forward, that it will be in a position to be able to improve. There's been no further discussion about forced migration from Magento 1 to Magento 2. What we know is the current policy that people will be given an 18-month notice period before that happens. So you're safe until about, let's say, mid or early 2020. That, of course, is subject to change, and that's not Optimize's decision or Freestyle's decision. That decision will be made entirely by Magento and the new corporate parents, Adobe. But what we do know is that the speculation surrounding this is that it will be part of a deeper push into e-commerce. And in March, Adobe took another step, which at first seemed quite curious or disconnected from the normal business, when he announced the personalization cloud. And you can refer to a post that we made on our blog about the Adobe Magento purchase, where we referenced that particular aspect of the business. When you view this from March until the date of the sale in May, now it makes perfect sense that this builds out and complements their personalization cloud strategy. And one could see this as potentially the first of many, many moves that can be made in this business. Of course, we don't have inside knowledge of that. There are very, very few people who do. But one wonders what else Adobe would be doing. Is Magento the only resting place or merely an interlude for them to make more moves in e-commerce? We'll know more about that as they decide to tell us. We talked a lot of Magento partners, Chris being one, of course, and there's a concern in the marketplace amongst the partners about whether or not Adobe may build out a larger professional services organization. Certainly, again, that is something that is not known to us right now. But what partners have been told, and Chris can confirm this, is that it will be business as usual, and that Magento continues to value and to work with their partners. A few other things that we learned from Magento itself is that they are also waiting to learn more about it. We, as a organization that offers connectors to Magento, have been told that it will continue to be business as usual. The very interesting thing about this is the speculation surrounding whether or not Magento, with Adobe and their presence with large global corporations, will move more to an enterprise model and perhaps take a look at how they monetize their products. That's something that is probably one of the more interesting pieces of this, because Adobe enjoys relationships with many, many global 100 and certainly 500 corporations. They can certainly leverage that to bring Magento into those businesses, and perhaps they will. But again, this is something that we'll have to wait to learn more about. I can tell you that having spoken with Magento's competitors, and you know who they are, BigCommerce and Shopify primarily, that they are just licking their chops, waiting to see if there's business that will become available to them. The battle for so many of the users of Magento and the two largest competitors are in exactly the market we are talking to today, the small and medium-sized businesses. And both companies would like to increase their footprint, especially into mid-sized businesses, where we enjoy so many joint customers, and so many of you on the phone are aiming to move your business into. So there will be no shortage of alternatives to Magento should they take the decision to move into a more upscale or enterprise-level market. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and I can assure you from my conversations with their competitors that they are very much ready to move into that marketplace. That's really it. We'll be taking more questions about this at the conclusion. If you have some, please put them into the question panel so we can speak to them at the end of the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim. So now we're going to talk about a few of the key changes that you guys will see in the Magento 2 system. So the first and the biggest change in Magento 2 starts all the way down at the core framework. The Magento 2 system utilizes an entirely new framework that was created with site speed, security, ease of use, and growth in mind. In addition to the new framework, the team at Magento also updated the base coding structure to a more popular jQuery standard, allowing for greater functionality with less conflicting code. Now, I know if you're not a developer, that doesn't really mean much to you, but what it does mean is that developers are able to create custom functionality and modules for Magento 2 more quickly and easily, which does help decrease the time and resources needed for those larger, more complex development projects. The other primary focus that they had when developing Magento 2 was security. Magento wants your customer data secure, so they put a whole bunch of new security updates all the way down at the core of the system. In addition to those, they also added a ton of additional security options in the admin area, like admin password expiration or single machine login, where you can only be logged into an account from one computer at a time. So that kind of covers the core under the hood stuff that was updated in Magento 2. So now I want to talk a little bit about some of the design and functionality changes, starting with a completely redesigned admin interface. It now uses a flat design, has better menu positioning, easy data formatting, and most importantly, gives you better control over your content. It also comes with many wizard interfaces that kind of show you how to use specific elements of the admin function. The next big change comes with the way Magento gets updated. Many Magento 1 sites remain unupdated or without security patches because they're very difficult to install, even with the assistance of a developer. A lot of the Magento security patches have been known to be buggy and cause issues with customizations that have been done to the site. With Magento 2, they created a new update system that allows the user to run the update directly from the admin interface. They've built in a wizard that runs compatibility and coding checks, assists with database and structure backups, as well as walks you through the entire update process step by step. They also had shopping conversions in mind when they were building the new system, and to show that, they completely updated the checkout process. They went from the old 6-step accordion-style process, something that was kind of tiresome and reduced conversion rates due to its complexity, and they updated it to a simple 2-step checkout, shipping and payment. With this process, it greatly reduces the time it takes for the customer to check out, ultimately increasing conversions and reducing cart abandonment. Next, there's the introduction of a few new payment methods that you're going to have right out of the box. The two biggest are true on-site PayPal Express integration and the introduction of Amazon Pay. The on-site PayPal Express integration replaces the old model where a customer was sent to the PayPal site to complete their order. Now the PayPal experience happens right on your site. The new Amazon Pay method allows customers to place order on your website by logging into their Amazon account. It allows them to check out and never have to actually enter any payment information directly into your site, which makes their transaction even more secure. I'm going to jump back to the admin area for a quick minute because I do want to point out a few options that you get with Magento 2 when you're working with products. The first is the ability to switch between product attribute sets, which gives you more control over the attributes and filters that you have on your website. The other, and anyone who's worked with Magento 1 knows that this is a really big update, is the ability to change simple products or groups of simple products into configurables on the fly without having to create an entire new configurable structure. Now, anyone that works with Magento 1 knows that there is a ton of extensions available for Magento 1. The problem, however, is that a lot of those extensions became outdated. Security updates might break the extension, and you never really know if they're going to work with your particular version of Magento. In Magento 2, they released the new Magento 2 Marketplace. So not only do they require that any extensions be submitted and vetted, they also perform vetting of the company submitting them. This makes sure that you're not going to have companies posting extensions who won't reply to support requests or who might be out of business next week. Last thing that I want to talk about for Magento 2 is the new ready-to-go template that has installed on the system. If you've ever installed a fresh copy of Magento 1, you know that out of the box, there's not really much you could do with it unless you purchase or have a template created. With the new Magento 2, it has a ready-to-go theme, so for smaller projects, you might not have a budget to have a full design created. You can quickly make small edits to the existing template, and you're ready to go with your new site. So now that we've talked about some of the new features we have in Magento 2, now let's talk about migrating the data. We're going to talk about some of the stuff that can be migrated and what can't. When it comes to the things that can be migrated, there's two different processes. One is the Magento data migration tool, and the other is a manual migration. Things that can be moved over with the migration tool are things like your product data, your attributes, categories, order history, your customer data, store configurations, and any promotions you might have set up in your current system. There are some custom data pieces that can be migrated over, and those are typically handled on a case-by-case basis. For the manual migration, those are things like any media you may have. If you have PDFs or images that are part of your product descriptions, if you have custom imagery or icons on your homepage, those just have to be manually moved from one folder structure to the other. The other are any admin accounts that you may have set up in the system. And lastly, any API access accounts for third-party integrations. Those just need to be reset up in the new Magento 2 system. Now, the things that can't be migrated is any custom website functionality. Since the structure and the framework for Magento 2 is so different than Magento 1, anything that was coded for Magento 1 does need to be recoded for Magento 2. Next are any Magento extensions. There are some companies that offer Magento 2 versions of the extensions, but there are some that don't, so you will have to find other extensions or have functionality custom created for some of these. And finally, the storefront design. As we talked about, the framework is different, so the entire design has to be rebuilt to work on the new Magento 2 framework. So the question is, do you want to upgrade or start fresh? And when we talk about upgrading or starting fresh, we're talking about using either your current existing site exactly as it is and moving it over to the Magento 2 platform, or starting fresh with a brand new layout, design, and functionality for your clients. So when you're upgrading, you are using the same design and functionality. The site functionality is already in place, so site audit is relatively easy, and some of the custom coding may be able to be converted over to the Magento 2 format. Because of this, it gives you a shorter project length and also a little bit of a lower project cost. Now, if you have some things sitting in your wish list you've been waiting to get implemented, you want to maybe freshen up your site a little bit, that's when you would go new. You'd have a new design, new functionality created. The new functionality will be created from scratch based on the Magento 2 coding base. And it gives your customers a great new storefront and shopping experience. With that, though, you do have a little bit of a longer project length because you have the design phase in the beginning, and you have a little bit of a higher project cost. So the last thing I want to talk about before handing this over is what you guys can do internally to prepare for a Magento 2 upgrade or migration. The first thing is you're going to want to take a full audit of any extensions that you have on your website. What is it? What does it do? Does it provide shopper functionality, or does it provide admin functionality? The next is review all of the other custom functionality that's on your website. It might either be from one of the extensions that you've already listed, or it might have been something that was custom developed. You want to have a list of these so that nothing gets missed during the migration. Next, review any third-party integrations, Google Analytics, email marketing, ad roll, abandoned cart, review systems, anything that might be connected to your system that you're going to want to see in place on your new Magento 2 site, you want to have listed so nothing gets missed. Then you can do some data cleanup. A lot of people, I'm sure, have some old products, some products that can use description updates or image updates, some old categories that are lingering. The cleaner the data is when it runs through the data migration tool, the faster and easier the conversion is going to be. Then you want to review your site design and layout. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Do you want to completely overhaul? Do you want to leave it the same? Maybe change a few things? It's something you're going to want to sit down and internally decide what's going to work best for you and your business. And then finally, any new functionality that you want to see on your new Magento site. If you have that wish list sitting there and you haven't really been able to get any of these things implemented, now's the time to do it. All of the conversions, all of everything's already going on. It's the perfect time to get this done. With that kind of concludes my portion of the presentation, and I'm going to hand it off to Ian.
Before we go any further, I just want to make a couple points clear. I saw a question come in here, and this will be available tomorrow morning for anyone who needs to pass this around to their company to share what they've been seeing so far, as well as for those who are interested in the handout section, which is right below the questions panel. We have the slide deck as a PDF ready for you, as well as the Magento 2 one-pager that most of you already downloaded on the thank you page for signing up to today's webinar, but if you need it for whatever reason, again, you can easily download it again. I'm going to throw it over to Ian now, who's going to talk about the Magento 2 connector.
So with the M.O.M and Magento 2, a couple things that we wanted to do, we're doing this in phases. The phase 1 that we're actually releasing is going to have the following functionality. So we're going to be able to download orders directly to M.O.M. Acknowledge. So basically, when you after you download, acknowledge the orders, that will help update the status of the Magento side, so that helps with performance. So next time we do an order download, you'll only pull the pending or processing or letter status you want to pull down into the M.O.M system. We're also going to be offering sync shipment, so that's putting a shipment record on your Magento side and adding the shipping information along with the tracking information as well. We also do the syncing of inventory. Coming soon, we're currently working on the ability to publish the product and this description. We're looking into the site color, the attributed products, configurable, things like that. We're also researching the bundle products and as well as the different categories we might want to add to product. So what I'll be doing next is actually walking you through the process in M.O.M and walking you through a demo on the setup of it and how actually live, how we can download orders, sync inventory, sync shipments, and things like that. So I'll go into the demo system now. So I'm going to give you a presenter, and then we'll start the demo.
While you're waiting for Ian to get presentership and demo it, if you guys do have any questions, feel free to ask. That way we can go ahead and answer them as we go along. And I think we do have something here real quick. What info is included in the M.O.M download file? Can this be customized?
It's a basic API call, so it has all the data information. And right now it's a standard on our import layout, but if it's a certain data set that you want to import, you would have to customize it and let us know which fields those are so we can then map that accordingly to our import file. So you guys can see all my screen here. So we will start off on the M.O.M side, on the setup of it. Within M.O.M, you're going to have, so again, this is different for you guys are using BizSync or anything. This is actually integrated in M.O.M. So this is not outside of M.O.M. So within M.O.M, you can define the setting. In here, we added a tab for Magento 2. We do a test connection. We do support multi-stores or multi-views. So if you have that, we support that. And then we have tabs here that you can go to. So in the order tab, you can have a filter of what type of orders you want to download based on their statuses. You can also base it on an order ID range. So if you want to do by order number, you can do that. You can do it by order date range if you'd like. So, and you can do all this in combinations. As far as the discount, you can use an option here so that all the discount comes in as a line item if you'd like. You put a SKU in there. You'll put a total all the discounts and bring that into M.O.M. We have product on the fly. What that is that if you haven't mapped all the SKUs correctly in M.O.M yet, when it imports to our system, we'll have a placeholder for that particular product. So that way we preserve the pricing for that particular product coming into our system. We also have default shipping methods, default invoice, default payment methods, sales ID, order type, source key, and order priority. So you can set all that up in here. We also have the new acknowledgement status. Right now, we default it to FS acknowledge. Now, we know that this is a client-facing status, so you can change this here if you'd like. You can also change it on the Magento side on the view. So you can make the FS acknowledge as an external and then have a different view to represent it. So it could be downloaded or it could be processing or whatever you want to call it. But that indicates to your end client that it's been downloaded, being processed by the fulfillment. On the product side, again, this is for the future. We actually have in here already where you can actually select what you want to send up to Magento, and you can also set a filter so that you don't necessarily have to say all products. You can say all active Magento. You can do a custom filter where you can say I only want a particular classification code to go up to Magento. So you can pick and choose which product you want to publish to Magento, giving you the flexibility. That way you can pick and choose, and it's very easy to publish. We did the same thing for inventory. You can filter all Magento, or you can do by a particular custom field, and then you can then control which inventory you want to actually sync up with your store. And then we have some rules here where you can do 100% of your units, or you can do a percentage or a particular number. That way, if you sell on other channels, you don't necessarily want to oversell on just Magento. So if you have another site or your own site, you might want to do 10% or whatever you want to calculate. That way, helps with the overselling under.
And before we go into a little bit further, we are getting a few questions in here that I did want to ask now before we get lost in this. Couple of things is when it comes to order download, does it pick up from where it left off from the last order, or does it search for the same orders over and over again?
So again, that's why we added the acknowledgement. So typically, the way we envision this is that you download the order, and then we'll see this in action. Once you download the order, you actually want to send an acknowledgement back to Magento. And what that does is it updates the status in the Magento side to FS acknowledge. Again, you can change that. That's our default. Once it's done as acknowledged, when we actually download again, we're looking for processing and pending. At that point, that order is no longer processing pending. It's FS acknowledge. So it's not going to come down again.
Now, I know this is also something that you were talking about for the future. When it comes to product upload, is it incremental or does it send all products up all the time before a change is made?
We do have this is a enhancement we did for M.O.M 9 and 10 where we added the LU date, which is the last updated date. So it would be incremental if it has been updated already. So if it, we see that every time you touch a product, it'll change the LU date. So then if that LU date is different from since you last published, then it would use just publish that particular product. But again, if you run a custom filter, it would run everything for that custom filter.
All right, yeah, and that's what we're doing. We're only updating any products that have any changes to them. But we had a question in there from Matt today, but you answered it, so I think we're good to go. If you want to continue with the shipments. The shipments, we just, we added a fulfillment backside here to control just in case there is some throttling that's going on, so we could control that. And then the mapping finally is the way you map your shipping method. In Magento, there is a title and a method. So basically here you can add, and this will give you a list of shipping methods that you have in M.O.M. You can pick any of these that you'd be to, and then you would then go to Magento to see what the title is. Typically, it's the carrier, and then the method would be the second day, and then that would map it for us. Same thing with pay method. You would go to your pay method in Magento side and map it to a pay method in M.O.M. And same thing with the card types. Just to note, with the order download, if you want to bring in credit card information, in this case, if you want to pre-authorize in Magento, we are requiring an extension called Paradox Lab that will allow you to tokenize with authorize.net. Basically, they will send the token information to us, allowing you to authorize on the website and allowing us to capture once it's shipped in M.O.M. The reason we had to do that is because Magento currently, when you download credit card information, it's all encrypted. They don't pass credit card information back to an OMS. So that's why the extensions are doing that outside, and that's why we're requiring that. So that's pretty much the setup there. I'm going to go into actually the process of it. So again, this is all in M.O.M. So I'm going to show, I placed a couple orders in Magento here, and you can see that the current status here is pending, right? So we have 113 and 114. They're currently pending. So what I'll do is go to our e-commerce manager here, and we'll do a download. So we'll highlight the download, and again, we have multiple store setup on support. So I'm going to select the proper store here, and then process 1. This will go to the Magento store and start downloading. You can see 13 and 14 being downloaded, and once that's complete, it'll tell us it's completed, and then we can then review those orders. So then the order is now in the system. Like I said before, right after you download, you run the acknowledgement. So note that I'm going back to the Magento store. Note the status here, it's pending. Right here. I'm going to go ahead and process the acknowledgement. That will go to Magento for those 2 orders and acknowledge those. So if I go back to the Magento store and refresh, that should be that's acknowledged. And while Ian, you're logging in, this is only available for what version of M.O.M?
That's version 10. And so you can see that the 113 and 114 now has a different status. Now that's what I was talking about earlier, where when we try to download again right now, nothing would come down because it's a different status altogether. So once we acknowledge the order, we go to our fulfillment in M.O.M. So if we do 266, you can see that that's the order that came in. I ordered a stick of coffee. The totals are matching from Magento. So I'm going to go ahead and fulfill this. I'm going to go process this to our system. to M.O.M, exit. And we are using our Shippo engine here with a third-party M.O.M. So it's generating a label within the M.O.M system here. And just print that out again. Exit. So now it's pack ready to ship. I'm going to go ahead and do the second order here. I'll process the same thing, and then I'm going to send the tracking information back to Magento. So both of them has labels. You can see both of them will have a tracking number from USPS for the priority mail. I'm going to go ahead and save these orders, and I'm going back to our batch screen to run our shipping stage. So you can see stage 10 there has 2 orders that's ready to go. Process those 2 guys. Once they're processed, I'm just going to quickly review them again to show you that they have shipped in M.O.M. So that all merchandise ship up here, ship status here, tracking information here. So what we do next is, in going back to our Ecom Manager station, is we're going to sync the shipments. So if we go to sync upload shipments here, we're going to hit process 1. And then once that's completed, we'll go into the Magento side and review the results and what it actually does. So as you remember, before we did the sync shipment, it was FS acknowledged. So for now, if we actually refresh the screen on the Magento side, you will see that it's now completed. So you can see 113 and 114 are both completed. If you view that particular order, it should create an invoice for you, marking that's been paid. And it should create a shipment for you over here, so we can view that and then confirm that the tracking information is there. But if you scroll down here, you can see USPS, priority mail, and the tracking information. So at the end of the day, when you sync, the shipment is synced, the next step is to sync your inventory. So you can see, going back to Magento, I just want to point out the catalog, because we've been buying up some coffee, so I want to see what the current inventory of the coffee is. And then we'll see if this should sync up with M.O.M. So now, coffee right now has $9.93 as an inventory. Right? So going back into M.O.M, and we'll check out the inventory for that coffee.
So right now,
Should be $9.91, right? So,
yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and finish the sync, and then I'll take that question. Sure. So it's $9.91. So what I'll do is go back to the e-commerce manager, and I'm going to go ahead and sync that inventory. Process that. It will go through and update the inventory, and then we'll go ahead and refresh the Magento side, and it should update to 991. And you can see right there, it's updated to 991 after. So that would be the whole process in M.O.M. You download the order, you acknowledge it, you process the fulfillment, and then you send the shipping information back to M.O.M, and then you sync the shipment. Also, with that said, if you'd like to kind of automate this, you could run something where you can schedule this every 60 minutes. So as long as it says process yes in batch here, you can see here, you can check this box and it would refresh however minutes you set here. So if it's every 30 minutes, it would run through the download, upload, the sync shipment, and inventory every 30 minutes. We are looking for some enhancements on this. I've been speaking with the development team to actually have a service outside the system where you can schedule it for each task, similar to what we had with BizSync before. But again, that's the whole process. We saw that we saw the setup of it, pretty straightforward. We saw how we can download orders. We saw how we can acknowledge those orders. We saw how we can fulfill in M.O.M and then send the shipping information back to Magento. And finally, we saw how we can sync the inventory back to Magento properly. So with that said, I know Sean had a couple of questions here, so I'm going to go ahead and take those.
Let me answer some of these. We'll go back to some of these. In the case of multiple Magento source and multi-company MOM, will syncing continuously tie up multiple licenses, or does e-commerce manager run the background? And I think you kind of answered that.
For right now, it is going to tie up a license because it's going to be open on that screen. But we are planning to look at making it into a service to run in the background, similar to if you are using BizSync, similar to running it as a, kind of a scheduled job on the back.
Okay. Now, also, Justin asked if you schedule, do you need to leave the window open, and does it take a workstation? We answered that. We do have a question. Is M.O.M 10 able to upload years of prior Magento history up to Magento 2?
The order history?
Yeah, order history.
No, it does not. It's a download, not an upload.
And then, do we have any Magento 2 connect? Does the Magento 2 connector write any log files on the Magento server that can help with troubleshooting issues?
I have to check with the team on that, but as of right now, I don't believe so. We do have our own logs coming into our system, so we have an exception log coming into M.O.M. So if there's any issues coming down during the import, we have a table and a report that will let you know what was wrong with the order coming down.
We can get back to that question later and answer it offline, since it does require a little bit of research on our part.
And then, can you also provide some details how long the sync process would take with dealing a long number of SKUs, in terms of 5,000, 15,000 products for both inventory and in development product and postings?
We actually haven't benchmarked it, but I would have to get back to you guys on that answer because the benchmark hasn't been done with you yet. So. Okay.
All right. Ian, do you have anything else you wanted to show?
No, I mean, again, we saw what we currently offer. Again, I want to point out that we are working on the product side as well, and that's coming soon. On this one, if you go to the e-commerce here, we have a Magento drop-down, and right now we're just doing the Magento SKU because that's how we sync up inventory. So we open that field up. But you can see we've been working on the title, the status, the tax, visibility, the category where it's going to be, cost, price, and things like that. More descriptions for it. So we are working on those things currently, and we are going to be planning to support the configurable products as well from Magento. So that's in development right now, and we're testing that.
All right. A couple more slides.
Yeah. Ian, thank you very much for that. And so for people in the audience with great questions, we really do appreciate that. Certainly, we'll reserve some time at the end of this. So if you have more questions, feel free to send those to us, and we'll address those at the end of the webinar. And I think there's a couple of more slides we had before we get to the end.
Yeah, let me just, because we did have another question that just came in. Can we specify a hold date for orders imported?
I believe it's on the Magento side. I think we've mapped that field already, so we just had to just add. If it's not there, it's pretty simple to add. So again, just to review, recap what we saw. Again, the order download does require that paragraph flag. Make sure you get the Magento 2 version. We do have a Magento 1 version, but if you are planning to use that, get the Magento 2 version. We saw the acknowledgement, and that's done so that we reduce the duplication coming into the system, but also enhance the performance, because now every time we pull orders from Magento, we're only looking for the specific ones, not every order that's not been completed. Sync shipments, obviously you saw that. It does create a shipment record and a invoice at the same time. Sync inventory, we saw that after, you should do that after everything's fulfilled in M.O.M, so that way you have the proper inventory in M.O.M, and then that sends back to your inventory to kind of reduce or minimize any overselling on your site. Again, coming soon, we have the product publish and update with M.O.M, so that's going to include the configurable products, descriptions, and maybe some categories and images. That again, those are things that we're researching on our site now. So again, with the M.O.M, using Magento, you could support fulfillment across multiple channels, sync inventory, obviously, if you have more than one store. You have the CRM capabilities to help you kind of manage those customers' issues coming in relation to the orders, and the omni-channel support that we have, so you can buy it online, pick up in store. It can all be handled through M.O.M. Again, the main thing here is that this particular module is now in the M.O.M system, so it's not an outside module versus what you're used to before. It's easier to manage. We have the code here on our side, so if any customizations that you would need, it's easier for us to do. So.
All right, folks, let's just take a quick moment to recap where we've been and what we've covered so far. So we talked a bit about what we know to date about the Adobe purchase of Magento. Chris gave you a great walkthrough and some analysis of how you might position and consider a potential upgrade from Magento 1 stores to Magento 2, a comparison of how you should approach it. Should you upgrade? Should you start fresh? Some thoughts on timeline and costs as well. We welcome more questions on that through the question panel. Ian walked you through how our Magento 2 connector works, the parameters, how you can synchronize inventory, what you can see within the Magento store, how it is updated, and then what you can see in M.O.M. So you've seen really some great information today on the conversion from Magento 1 to Magento 2, as well as a really nice process to be able to handle the download of orders and the fulfillment of orders with the Magento 2 connector to your Magento 2 store, and also how M.O.M deals with the Magento 2 store and how it fulfills orders. So let's just take just a minute as we wait for some more questions to come in. We are nearing the end of the webinar, so we're going to pause right now, and we will take the final questions. So folks, we were monitoring the questions. We haven't had any new questions come in. So just some final thoughts from each one of us. Again, thank you for joining us today. And to just address once again those SiteLink customers that are on the phone today, just curious about what their options may be. We hope we've covered that for you and want to leave you secure in the knowledge that SiteLink is a great spot for you to be in right now, and it will continue to be improved. We spent so much time talking about M.O.M and Magento 2, we didn't want to neglect M.O.M and SiteLink, the closest integration to M.O.M that's offered. So I'd like to throw it now to Chris and to Ian for some final thoughts.
So just quickly, as we kind of covered, Magento 2 isn't just a quick little version upgrade. It's an entirely new system that they built from the ground up, specifically to make your customer experience be more secure, fast, and profitable for you guys, which is the most important part. If you guys do have any other questions, our contact info will be at the end, and also Freestyle Solutions here, the team here, will be able to answer some other questions you may have as well. Ian?
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, again, I just want to emphasize that this particular integration is within the M.O.M system, so the ease of use of it is much better. It's overlaid to a particular functionality that you're used to already, similar to if you are using Amazon with us. Pretty much we've used that framework and overlaid it there. So the use and the easier you guys are very familiar with it already. So it should be easy to pick up and easy to use. So again, just want to emphasize that in the M.O.M system. And again, we have more stuff coming out of it, coming more feature from Magento 2 that we're working on. So once that's out, obviously we'll share that information with you guys.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Ian. We're going to show our contact information right now. If you do have some questions for us that we've not answered during the webinar, please feel free to contact either Sean directly with the questions or Chris. I imagine that will be a lot more discussion around this because the choice of how you might move your Magento store is a large one. It certainly takes a lot of consideration as well as the impact on your business. So we'll look forward to receiving those. Sean mentioned at the beginning of the webinar that it is being recorded, and we will be sending a copy of the webinar to anyone who's registered for the webinar, as well, of course, for those who participate in the webinar. So feel free to share those within your organization. And if they're, again, after viewing the webinar, there's still other questions, you know how to reach us. Once again, thank you very much for joining us today. We really do appreciate your time, your willingness to work with us. And for those of you who are Freestyle customers, we certainly appreciate your businesses, as well as any optimized customers on the phone. Chris is shaking his head. He appreciates your business too. So again, thank you so much and have a good rest of your day.